Hi there, this is Clovis from Kinematic Lab. In this video I'm going to show you how to use the network dots object. So let's go in the UI Toolkit interface and in the others category here. So first of all, before using the network dots, you have to create a network object in your scene. So I click on the network button and left click in my scene. So I have my first network created here. So I right click to stop. And now what is important to notice is that you have to select this network object. So by default, when you create it, it is selected. But if you created other objects, you have to be sure this is selected. So select the network and then click on the network dots. And that's it. It creates another object, so the network dots. And this network dots object takes automatically the network object here, this one, as a reference. So you have a select source button here. So this is useful because you can't really select the network itself in the scene because it's just vertices, as I explained in the previous video. But if you click on this select source button, it selects automatically the network object which is linked to this network dots. So what do we have here? In the mesh parameters, you can change the type of mesh you can see here. So for now it is just circles, okay? And you can change their radius, the number of segments, okay? You can have squares and change their size as well, like that. It can be some spheres, okay, with changes to the segments. It can also be a custom object, so for that I have to create a new geometry in my scene, and I go to custom and pick this custom object. Okay, it can be anything, any geometry. Fine, and all you do on this object is going to be done here. So you can deform it, animate it, it's going to be repeated here. Okay, I remove this. And it can be also cylinders or cubes. I will show later how to change the size. You have some UpVec options here, X, Y, and Z. It's basically the direction where the face is pointing. Okay. I will stay in Z for the moment and show you some other options here, like the percentage. So basically this makes the dots grow along the network. Okay, 100% is the full network. And if I select the network and change its type, let's say a grid, okay, you see that automatically the network dots understands what is the network and where are the network dots. Okay, and so you see the results in the percentage here. So if you use a circle network, it's going to be the same. Okay, you can make this happen, and you can animate this as well. Something else is the slide option. So this make the dots slide along the network. Okay, so this can be animated as well. Fine. And you have the delete percentage here. So basically 0 has nothing deleted and 100% should delete dots. What is important too is the random seed button. So this, each time you click on this, it generates a new random pattern and makes you a different way to delete the dots. And this delete value can be animated as well, so I can add some keyframes. Okay. So let's remove these keys. Okay. And now let's talk about the transforms. So in this rollout, you can affect the transform of the dots itself. So that's important to notice, that you see that the network itself doesn't change. Okay, the yellow dots you see here doesn't move, but only the dots. Fine. Okay, so in X, Y, and Z. Same for the rotation. And same for the scale. And if you choose cylinders, for example, the Z scale, okay, makes all the difference. Okay, it makes it scale like that, and for the cube, that's going to be the same. Okay, so now what is this for? What can I do with this? So you have to understand that, like in the network object, you have a time rollout here with some time control options. So you have exactly the same here in the dots. Okay. So basically, when you animate a value like the radius, I will put some keyframes on the radius, or just well, yes, I will just keyframe it. So for now, all my dots are doing the same thing, okay, at the same time. If I put this animated option here off, you have nothing happening, okay? So I just have to check this and then change this offset value. So I will go here and you will see something interesting happening. So basically what it does now is that it offsets these keys, okay, this animation along all the dots. So it can be offsetted by row here. So row per row, like that. So all the dots in this row are going to have the same animation at the same speed, okay? Or dots by dots, which is these dots repeated here, okay? Fine. Or just both of them, so it makes it slide, it makes it offset along each dots per dot, okay? And this offset value sort of scale this offset, so it can be really fast or quite slow, okay? Fine. So these offset values, these offset parameters, sorry, can control a lot of these parameters. So I just keyframe the radius, okay? So for example, you could animate something else like the positions, okay? Let's say I will animate this position X. Okay, so for now my whole grid is doing this animation, but if I change this and check one of these options, okay, you will see that for now offset per row, okay, it's just offset line per line like that, okay. If I change by offset by dots here, it's going to animate it dots per dots, okay, along this direction. And if I check both, they are going to be animated like that. So of course, if you change something like in the network, if you change its type, like you wanted to make a circle, okay, it's going to behave differently because of this type, okay. So in this case, the position are acting like that because of the orientation of the dots. Okay, so if in my network I add more dots and even more circles like this, I go back to my network dots, and you see that it makes sort of delay along this direction, but I can change this so it can be line like that, line per line, okay, or circle per circle. Okay, so now let's just change this animation and add a noise controller, so a noise float like that with better amplitude. And you can make some pretty cool animations. You can, of course, accumulate these two options. And something else here is the random offset and random speed. So if I change this random offset, it's just add a random value to this value. So you can have some more randomized look. And there is also the random speed here. So this really changes the speed of the animation per dot. So some of them are going to do the same animation but faster, and some of them are going to be slower. So use this carefully because it can quickly become a mess, but you will have something interesting, and you can use all these options together, of course. I will add even more dots. Change this radius to make it smaller, and just hide the network. Okay. And these two seed buttons just generate other random options, so other other random patterns, sorry. So it's going to make a different animation. So this is important to notice that these network dots are moving independently from the network itself, but you can animate the network, okay, and animate the dots on top. So let's say I remove the animation of my dots for now. Okay, so now nothing is moving at all. I go back to the network by using the select source button, so it selects my network. And now I can animate, okay, my network itself, and you see that the dots are always following what the network is doing. Okay, so even if you deform the network using a modifier, the dots are going to follow it, okay, which is quite interesting as well. Fine. So let's animate the network. Okay, I will change something like the slide. Okay, so I will add a noise float to the slide. Okay, like that. So I see something happening. Okay. And I will offset it because in the network I have the same offset values, the same offset options, sorry. So I can make something cool like that, okay? But it can be in the grid too, okay? And let's go back to the dots. And in these dots I can, on top of the animation of the network, I can animate the rotation, for example. Okay, so let's say I will animate this Y rotation. So what I will do is that I will link the animation of my network to the animation of my dots. So for that I select my network, I right click, and I go to wire parameters, and I will select the slide value, okay, and I will link it and click to the dots. And this is going to be the rotation in Y, I guess. So I link the slide to the rotation and I connect it. Great. So now what would be good is to have the same time offset value here copied in the dots. Okay, so the animation is going to be really linked, so you have the same delay on the dots that you have in the network. Okay, and let's add even more rotations to this. So I go back to the wire parameter, okay, and I will multiply it. So I have more rotations, okay, that's better. I still can change everything here. I can change the type of my dots and make some planes like that. And what is great is that everything is sort of procedural. So if you go back to the network itself, and in this grid you can add even more dots. To make something much more complex. Let's remove some some of them. So what is good by linking this this slide, okay, of my grid with the rotation of my dots is that I can change directly just the slide value, the slide amplitude, okay, and it's going to, you see, it's going to influence directly the rotation of my dots. So that's pretty cool. Now let's talk about the mod effect rollout. So for that I will remove all the animations I did, okay. I will remove the time offset and we'll do the same for the network. Okay, so I have my static network like that. In this rollout, what you have access is position, orientation, scale, rotations, axis, etc. So this is useful when you add a modifier to the network, okay? The network dots are going to take the difference between the network positions to the deformed network positions to create some animations. So to explain, I will add a deformation to my network. I will add something like a displace modifier, okay, and add a map, like for example a noise map, okay, and I will just quickly edit it, make it smaller, and I will change its strength so we can see something, okay. Fine, I will just reduce the strength. Okay, so now my network, okay, has a displace like that. I will animate this displace by, let's say, animating the phase, okay. So I will add 2 keyframes. So now my displace modifier, okay, is animating my network. So let's go back to the network dots. So by default you have the position here checked. If I uncheck it, you see that the dots now they go back to the original position and only the network is moving, okay. So basically these options take in account all the modifications you do on top of the network. So if I check position, all the dots are taking the position of the network vertices. If I check orientation, it orients along these dots as well. In the grid it's not really easy to see, but if you use network circle, for example, okay, and if I just check the positions, you see that of course I have to fit the displace modifier Okay, like that. So you see that my dots for now are just following the positions, but if I check orientation, in the case of a circle like that, they try to look at the next dot. Okay, so it makes a nice flow and just rotate the dots to look at the next dot. Okay, so that's something cool. But then you can say that this deformations, so it takes the distance between the original dot to the new dot, okay, to the deformed dot. And you can say that it affects the scale, for example. So in this case, it's going to affect the X scale. So I uncheck the positions, so my dot stays flat like that. But you see that when the dots, when the network vertices are moving, they are changing the scale values. Okay, and you can just refine this value with this. And you can do that for a lot of these parameters, like the Z, X, Y, Z scale and rotation too. So if I check for the rotations, for example, it's going a little bit fast, so just add a little bit of rotations. And you see that the formation of the network is affecting the rotations now. And I can add positions to that and even add rotations. So everything accumulates. So it's just a matter of adjusting what is happening. I can go back to a network grid. Okay, I will fit this place. And you see that it still works. Okay. The higher the dots are going, the more rotated they are going to be in the z-axis. Okay. I can rotate them in the y-axis or in the z-axis or in every rotation axis. So you can make really cool effects with that. So that said, we can go here in the materials. So all the networks objects have, okay, they all have material IDs set automatically. So it's the case for network dots too. So I will apply a multi-sub-object to this. Okay, and I apply it. So for now it is black. Okay, and I will add just one material for now. Okay, so everything is gray for the moment. But you have here multiple IDs option, okay, and a value here that can be adjusted. So you see that when I change this, some dark spots are showing. And I will just add two other materials to explain. And I will change their colors. Oops. Okay. So what do we see here? Let's remove the displays for now. Okay, so nothing is moving. Okay, you see that if I just check one, okay, one multiple ID, all the dots are taking this first material ID, okay, in account. If I check two, they are going to take two material IDs and it's going to be looped along the grid. If I check three, it's going to be taking three material IDs and it's going to loop along the network. So if I change the network type and choose a circle, for example, it's exactly the same. You see, gray, red, blue, gray, red, blue, it's looping around it. And if I add even more dots, okay, it's replicating exactly the same pattern along this. And with the slide value, you can make these materials slide along the dots. So I will just add more materials, okay, and say 6. So it's going to be easier to see slide. Okay. So I can animate this slide value as well, okay. And the last thing is about the vertex colors. So if I check the fade button here and press this vertex color toggle, it displays the vertex colors from black to white. Okay, you can invert these values, and this is not renderable unless you add a vertex color map to it. Okay, so I'll just expand this and I will create just a standard and apply this vertex color in the opacity, for example. So this only happens at render time, okay, because of some limitations of the materials in Max and the viewport. But basically, if now I render, okay, well, it's not easy to see. It's going to be easier with a mix map in the diffuse, okay, and these black and white values, okay, the input here in the mix amount, okay, using the vertex colors, the vertex color map, and they are going to blend between two colors, which is going to be easier to see. So you see that the black values goes to white values and it controls the blend between the blue and the pink value. And if you invert it, it's going to be inverted as well. Fine. That's it. See you in the next video.